Good morning and welcome to Cookbook. Today we have a very special guest, the poet Joshua Butts, author of New to the Lost Coast. Is going to come teach us how to make some garden fresh pasta. He is bringing some Brussels sprouts and some herbs from his own garden, and he's going to teach us how to make something delicious. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk to him about his new book, about his writing process, about CCAD, and about lots of other things. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Excited that Josh is coming today. We have poet Joshua Butts with us today, author of New to the Lost Coast. He's going to teach us how to put together what looks to be a pretty simple, pretty delicious pasta dish here. So what do we need to do first? We've got the pasta ready.
Right. We're going to turn on the stove.
Okay. So what?
We have, not the stove. Yeah.
Sure.
Put it on medium here. We've got some Brussels sprouts here, cut in half. With the cut side down, we're just going to get these kind of browned up. And once they're going like that, we'll flip them over and kind of casually, we're not going to be very precious with the turning of the sprouts.
Sure.
But we'll try to put a little collar on the other sides and maybe cover them up a little bit so they steam a little bit. Right? Okay.
So while those are going, what else do we need to do?
Just cut up some parsley for the sort of final deal here. And we're going to need some lemon zest. And so what I usually do is turn it upside down like this, and then it'll just hang out here on our zester.
Nice.
So we don't lose it, and then we also don't have to pick it up again.
And I don't know if you can see it, but Josh brought his own butter compound that he made. And has been saving, so he's obviously very proud of it.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that hangs out in the freezer that you forget about, and then you remember. I just remembered it this morning. So we'll finish the pasta with that. And it's got like a spring young garlic in it.
Sure.
Which is kind of mellow and sweet. So it's kind of a good thing to have hanging out in your freezer.
Okay, so we got the pasta ready. We brown those, flip them over, let them cook a little bit more, then cover them up to steam. We do the zest, and what is this?
That's some Parmesan cheese.
Parmesan cheese.
Basically, what we're doing is this is can be like a perfect kind of side dish.
Okay.
And I think that's where I come up with this, just sort of cooking Brussels sprouts to serve on the side, and then I'm sort of thinking, well, why not just toss those with pasta, so it can kind of go either way. But basically, once these are ready, then it's just the rest is sort of dressing it together.
Sure.
With a little bit of butter, a little bit of olive oil,
nice,
salt, pepper, parsley, lemon juice if we feel like we need it, but the zest might do the trick.
Maybe a little olive oil on that, or
in the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get all of these things ready, and then we'll combine it to show you how beautiful it is, and get to try a little. So once it's done, we'll go ahead and sit down and talk to Josh for a little while about the book, about CCAD, and many other things. So
cool.
Joshua Butts again. Remember, author of New to Lost Coast, out from Goldwake. You can get it on their website and Amazon, any of those places. Yeah. Excellent. So obviously you can do that when you're done watching this, or on the computer at the same time. Yeah, we can do that.
Two windows could be open.
Most recently, though, he is the creator of this beautiful looking pasta. So all the things you saw that we were working on before have now become this, which smells and looks fantastic. So well done to Josh. So was this part thesis? This book, when did this get written? Like, how was it put together?
Okay. Yeah, when I was in the PhD program at the University of Cincinnati, that was basically my dissertation.
Nice.
The creative portion of that.
Sure.
And I wrote those poems during that time. But then I wrapped it up, and I mean, if you were to find that dissertation, and I believe you can somewhere. It would
like a hyperlink, like I know mine is like you can, yeah.
Exactly. So it would be drastically different.
Sure.
I think the book got much better, but.
Well, it ends up, first book, mine ended up being sort of like collective of all the best things over like 10 years kind of stuff.
Pulling them together.
And so I think like there was one that was 10 years old and one that I sort of wrote to get in the book and that ended up becoming a little bit like this.
Yeah, I mean, there are poems that they're not new now, but I mean I was still shaping the old poems. It's sort of the middle part of the book, the app section. That I think is probably most similar to something that I would have had intact for the dissertation. But everything else, the first section and the third section of the book, were things that I was writing immediately after.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think my favorite thing, and Josh was nice enough to get this to me a week or so ago, and so I got to read it 3 times this week, which is always good.
Cool.
I get it.
Doing your homework.
If you get the kids to take a nap, then you got all the time in the world.
Right.
Is how the book is about a place, but it's about moving through a place, and there's a lot of different things, and you catch some of the beautiful minutia of it, and some of sort of the electric stuff that goes on. But that feeling of even when you're settled, that you're still sort of moving and on the go. Which is difficult to do because you get sometimes people will write place poems that are essentially just landscape poems with people dotted around them, and they lose sort of the energy and drive of what can make poems great, and none of that got lost in translation. It's really well put together. How do you sort of keep that focus and keep sort of sometimes the energy falls out of poems sometimes.
Right. Well, let me see. I mean the middle part of the book, the road poems are, here's how they sort of came about. I was driving home from UC in Cincinnati, driving on the Appalachian Highway, which takes me to my hometown.
Okay.
And I'm just sort of, it's not a dangerous road, it's like the speed limit's 55 miles an hour. And I just started to notice that all of the road names were kind of funny, maybe a little bit ridiculous.
Like the burnt cabin
road.
Burnt cabin road, right?
Right. You wonder what happened there. That's the poem. There you go. And then like Hackleshin Road, Gravel Washer Road.
Right.
And so I just started writing the names down, and then quite frankly, I mean, some of the poems are close to fact. Like the Chenoweth Fork Road, there is a goat farm there, and I find this out using Google, etc.
Sure.
I spent a lot of time looking at the Google Maps sort of over this area, and so there's some factual stuff going on, but there are also lies. There are also things that I'm making up.
Yeah.
And I think that the poems also are can be sort of anachronistic. Some of them, might try to inhabit a certain type of past, a past that I certainly am not familiar with.
Enhanced. I mean, it's sort of
That's a good way to put it. It's definitely enhanced. Sure. So, I mean, there are people's names who are real. There are things that I'm making up. I mean, it's just sort of like, and that's the sort of, I mean, I think as far as first books go, who's to say overall, but it makes sense to write about your life in a direct sort of way, and this book is not that. Right. It's not a, in fact, if family members were to look at this, they might recognize certain things and then see certain untruths, and hopefully that's okay. Right. Because, I'm aware of that, but at the same time, it is a made thing.
Well, you've got 2 choices, because if we've got the camera there, if the camera is right on everything, and it's nothing but truth and visual reality, it's sort of like, well, okay.
That can be powerful.
If you get too close, or if you step back and you add that little bit of abstraction, and you get to play with where things start to blur a little bit, that can be exciting and kind of be. But yeah, I mean, if you can do truth well, that's fantastic.
Right.
But sometimes messing with it, you get to play with it a little bit, and that I think is done really well. How long did it take you? It took you the PhD program at Cincy, and maybe about 5 years to put together.
Let's see. Yeah, that seems about right. The book was published last January, so it's 2015. And I think it was accepted in spring of 2013, I believe. So it sat a while before it came out. So yeah, that makes sense. 5, 6, maybe. Some poems are maybe 10 years old by the time it was published. Maybe 1 or 2.
And this is always an interesting story to hear. First book, what was the process to get it placed, to get it to come out?
Oh my!
I know you were part of the newly emboldened Gold Wake group.
Yes.
After a little falter there,
Yeah.
how long did it take to get the book picked up, and what was the process?
A long time. I mean, I was submitting it constantly
Right.
when I was in grad school. Even the version of the book that I wasn't necessarily happy with. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that either because it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know, but there's this sort of like, I mean, there is quite frankly this emphasis to publish something,
right away.
and you know, it's important for in terms of a career and all that, and so you know, I was sending it out, and with the sort of the new stuff that I'm working on, I haven't got to that point yet. So it's kind of, it could be partially out of being busy or maybe a little bit of laziness, but you know, I'm definitely going to try to do the next thing.
Sure.
Not that sort of just constantly sending it out, just you know, not just for the motivation to get it published, but that being an important thing.
Yeah, I think mine got picked off a pile in an open reading period.
Mm-hmm. This was
after
an open reading period.
Yeah, after 4 years of different incarnations and
Right.
different things, and I finally had my favorite professor at Miami. His name is David Schloss, who lives right near UC's campus.
Okay.
He goes to the Esquire constantly. I think his name is somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he said, you keep fucking around and trying these different
I didn't know
projects.
you were allowed to cuss.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you did that. Okay, I'm ready to go now.
I mean, if you want Will and May to watch it, you just mute it. She'll be excited.
It's fine.
But you know, you keep trying these different things and then putting down all these other stuff. Just put together all of your best poems, and then put it in front of as many people as possible, and that'll be the way.
Yes. I mean,
that's what. Yeah.
This book had a sort of, in the early stages, I had this sort of grand sweep in mind. The poems were going to start in the East and they would end in the West. They would end in California. And there is still a little bit of that. The ghost of that is there. But then, ultimately, the version that is published, I'd have to look at it again and think about it a little bit more closely. But it's not that didn't work out quite that way. I think the early poems are sort of movie, not all of them, but there are some movie poems in there, some Hollywood sort of things going on, and then the last section has some music stuff going on, and then the middle section are those road poems. So I didn't ultimately stick with that kind of geographic thing. But I mean, you know, it's useful to kind of work through those sort of patterns conceptually. But
so the force of it sort of remained, and the framework, but it just maybe didn't have the overall what you're. Speaking of David Schloss, he's yet to forgive me. I wrote a movie poem about him in To Catch a Thief, where I claimed that his first masturbatory experience involved Grace Kelly.
Wow.
And in grad school, all of the teachers were sort of like, well, that sort of sounds like David.
Wow.
And he was really sort of pissed.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't appreciate it. I thought it was right on.
Well,
never know.
Fiction hurts, I guess.
So what are you writing now? Like, what are the new topics? What are you trying to work towards?
Well, I've got an ongoing project, and maybe it's sort of inspired by the kind of sprawl that this book took. I'm writing poems about the Columbus native painter George Bellows.
Okay.
So, and he actually, I mean, I've been reading your book with interest because he's probably most famous for his boxing paintings.
Really?
But he only painted 4 boxing paintings.
Sure. Did he do like action or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was painting in the early 20th century and in New York City when boxing was outlawed.
Right.
And basically the way that they could get around these laws would
gangs in New York, they'd have like the barge fights kind of thing?
Well, it's a little later than that, but they would have a social club and it was a very seedy sort of underground kind of thing. And they would allow the boxers to become members of the club for the night, and then they could fight. There was a sort of way around these laws. But anyway, he's most well known for those paintings. But he painted his family, many sensitive portraits of his wife. He had 2 daughters, and he's from Ohio. But he's known as a New Yorker, and so it's kind of an ekphrastic project. A lot of the poems are sort of directly ekphrastic, but then in a lot of ways, I'm using them to write my own sort of personal history into them.
Sure.
Sort of however that works out. So I'm actually, in some ways, that by going through those paintings in that way, some of the poems are actually putting me in a situation where I'm writing more directly about things, but not.
Okay.
My
but you
life.
can use the paintings
Right.
as sort of a prism.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds interesting. How long have you been working on those?
See, that's the deal. It's been 5 years.
Awesome.
July of I went to Woodstock, New York, and
Did
for
some
the
research.
Well, there was he built a house in Woodstock.
Okay.
And he died. He died in 1925. He was like right around 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And but he built a house in Woodstock, and so I was there for the Birdcliff residency, artist in residence program, and my proposal for that residency was kind of absurd. I'm obsessed with the band, or I'm sort of recovering a little bit,
Okay.
in terms of my obsession with the band. I've kind of got it covered. I've slowed down a little bit.
Sure.
But I was obsessed with the band,
Sure.
and still am.
Did the
for
passing
most
of Lee Von Helm have?
Yes,
Did that, okay.
it was rough, but so I wrote I was like, I'm going to write a book of poems or a project or a number of poems that connect the band, who obviously were based out of Woodstock, and I'm going to connect it somehow with George Bellows, because Richard Manuel, the painter, or excuse me, the piano player for the band, briefly lived in the Bellows house that George Bellows built. I thought,
there it is.
There it is. There's that intersection. I'm going to make this work. And then I can go there, I can hopefully write some poems, but I can also see Lee Von Helm play as part of his Midnight Ramble series. And so I did that. I got to see him twice,
Awesome.
3 times total, but
Sure.
twice during that particular trip. And so I maybe got 2 poems out of that month there. And they're still.
We just kept singing Anna Lee over and over again. That's what it was.
Right. But they're still those poems are still hanging around, and then slowly but surely I've done lots of things for that project. I've visited the library at Amherst College in Amherst, Massachusetts, where the Bellows papers are, and so I've done a lot of research, and I'm quite frankly ready to just write poems.
To write and be finished.
And whatever happens with it, happens with it.
Well, it seems like you've got that tentpole research to sort of put everything together, and which is the much harder, more difficult,
I'm done with
time-consuming.
that.
Okay.
I'm done with the research part. And if I get a whole book out of it, I get a whole book out
Sure.
of it. But I'm open to. I've been writing other things.
Right.
Thank God.
I did.
It would be brutal.
I've got a manuscript about when the Weathermen tried to blow up the Thinker.
Yeah.
And so the people at the Cleveland Museum of Art were awesome and opened up the library and let me read, because all of the directors keep a journal. They've got like a director's that they all write in, so you could read what the director thought and like how they made the decision to just put it back up without remodeling it, because it was one of the original 20 busts that Rodin did.
Yeah.
And then they made a bunch of others after he died that were smaller, so on and so forth. So because it was an original that showed up there, was donated, they could like melt it and recast it, but it would be smaller, and obviously not done by Rodin because he was dead at that point. Or they could sort of remove the legs, or they could do all these they had these options, and they decided fuck it, we're just gonna put it back up. We'll put up a plaque and so you go up there, and I spent one day where I just sort of sat outside and looked at it from different angles and did the research and doing all, and that was much more time consuming than the writing of the poems. Right. Even though they were very nice about it and helped out, but really interesting to see, sort of to go back to those places and try to experience those things.
Yeah.
But they screwed up. They wrote a message on the foundation of where the statue was, but they used too many explosives and they wiped the message away.
Oh, really?
So what they found was some scrawlings that were illegible that had once been what they were trying to say, either something against capitalism or whatever. Sure. It was gone, and then a few years later, they were getting more violent and they were going to blow up a dance hall, and they blew themselves up, and that was sort of the end of it. But yeah, really weird. They thought about moving it inside. They thought about all of these things.
So which project is this for you?
It's is this an
ongoing thing? Or
it's not
because
placed
you got a
anywhere.
book that came out 3 days ago, right?
I do, called Not for Art Nor Prayer. It's
see the art
Eighth
thing.
House.
Okay.
No, that one's called just Bombing the Thinker, and it's got like poems to Rodin trying to explain what happened.
Wow.
Poems sort of about art and commercialism
the
and
1960s.
Yeah.
To him, that would be interesting.
Poems about what happened with the weatherman and all the things, and then there's a sequence that runs through it. Like, I gave you a copy of Temporary Champions, and there's the crowd sequence that pops up over and over again. So in this one, there's a damaged thinker that are first-person poems, and the voice of the thinker after he's been blown up.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's done.
Yeah.
But we'll see if and when that gets picked up. But they were people at the Cleveland Museum of Art, super nice people.
Right.
But no, I'm excited to see if that develops in anything. But the
Cool.
research part, that like the Temporary Champions thing, I had no boxing experience. I was never a boxer, but getting to read all the books, and I watched the fight
over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It's like 48 minutes long. But yeah, 270 times or something I watched it.
Wow.
Well, I got used to like picking, because when I do the sequences, I'll pick certain music to try to have like cues to like keep things together, so they don't completely fall apart. Because like I've got
You mean when you're writing poems, or
yeah,
okay.
If I'm doing a longer sequence, like I've got one called Nude Male with Echo. That's like 340 poems long, and so I'll pick a certain music to sort of, whether I'm tricking myself or something, to try to keep the thread so it doesn't go all over the place.
Yeah.
And for writing the crowd poems and for writing all those, I put the fight up on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'd have it in the corner of the computer, listening to it, watching it, and doing all the writing. So I ended up writing it. I think I wrote it in 5 months. But I had just several times a day I was watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then that sort of got to me.
Well, sure. But with that, do you feel like that you were... Did you ever feel like you had to sort of master the fight in some way to sort of... Or
part of it was I didn't know the language of boxing. Like I didn't know what terms to use. Yeah. And in a lot of the poems, there's not room to necessarily get into the nuts and bolts of what you call different kind of punches and things like that. But there's this long history. Southern Illinois put together a good collection of boxing poems called Perfect in Their Art, I think.
Okay.
And then I read Pierce Egan's Boxiana, and sort of the history, because boxing writing from like BC, all was reporting and things like that. So there's some really good collection of boxing writing. Joyce Carol, R.I.P. C.K. Williams. So C.K. Williams told me about a book Joyce Carol Oates had done about boxing. I guess she's a big boxing fan.
Wow. She did a George Fellows book too.
So that was really interesting to read, how people talked about it and how it sort of changed. And obviously the fight I picked, the Kim Mancini fight, changed a lot of boxing, and it went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds, and they sort of changed the doctor setup and so on and so forth. But
it's safer.
Yeah, so it took me a while to figure out the language and how to use the language, and then to figure out, to do the research on the boxers and their fathers and all the things that happened with Kim's mother, who kept trying to marry up and then stopped marrying up when she realized that her son was the meal ticket.
Yeah, I gleaned
some
of that story.
And then he died.
Yeah.
And then his girlfriend tried to marry him after he died, and to get the Korean death benefits.
Wow.
She held a press conference where she's like, "There's a champion in my stomach," because she was pregnant with his son.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really weird. So the whole thing got every little bit of research. Like, this is just so. Yeah. Everyone's like, "Well, the fight where someone died, that's pretty fucked up." So that's what this is. No, it didn't stop. Like the referee was either killed by the mob or committed suicide. Weird stuff, man. But the Bellows poems, they sound great. I can't wait to see you put those together. I had one personal question I wanted to ask.
Sure.
So I'm married to a teacher. She teaches special ed. Not a poet at all.
Okay.
So my kids are technically half poet.
Oh.
Willa Mae, your daughter. Your wife, Leslie,
Yeah.
is a poet, and you're a poet.
Right.
Both fantastic writers. Willa Mae is full poet.
He's full poet.
In a Hogwarts situation,
Okay.
would Willa Mae look down upon my children for only being half poet?
I don't think so.
Are you going to raise her that way?
No,
is there a way
we're not going to raise her as a poet,
Okay.
I don't think. We're going to raise her as a boxer, I think. I think that's what we're going to do.
Because I remember the Half-Blood thing being very significant in the whole Harry Potter, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, Willa Mae's going to have the leg up on that sort of deal.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, we would probably encourage her to do something different, I think. So she wouldn't, yeah, she might be envious of your kids
like,
for that reason.
You know, your dad's but your grandfather was a lawyer. Maybe you should
right.
do that kind of thing.
Right.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about her career yet. Well, actually, I have.
Okay.
I just don't know what it's going to be. We'll just have to wait and see.
Sure.
You know, I wondered.
Well, already today my son has been a doctor, a construction worker.
Really?
And then attempted to tackle me so we can incorporate some sort of...
Fix himself if he got hurt.
It'd be nice.
Right.
Right?
Construction worker, doctor.
Well, I got up at 4 to get some stuff done, and they got up, as they always do, really early. Mm-hmm. My wife sort of sent them down to me in the basement, and they went at it. My daughter talked about, she wants to be the writer, and Thomas wants to be... I think really a dog. I think he wants to be a puppy dog more than anything. But we'll see how the raising goes and how. But good to know that you're gonna Willamette will be unbiased towards that.
She can do other things. She responds really like strangely to music. So
nice.
I don't know if they'll be.
You were in a band. What was your? I didn't ever ask you what your band was called back in the day.
Oh. When I was in high school, I was in a band called Narco Clone.
Narco Clone.
Right.
The alliteration's nice.
Right, and then I don't know what the hell that meant. And then when I was in grad school, I was in a band called Arrow Sparrow, and we were.
All right.
So we were kind of recording music and playing for
all the kids in my grad program were in punk pop bands.
Right.
Long live Team Stray.
Team Stray. Cool.
So we'd go all over and.
Yeah.
Normally, I'd get drunk by the end of the show and join the band at a certain point.
Really?
Yes.
That's allowed.
Do you wanna make out? I got all the still up there. All right. So thank you, Josh, for coming. Get the book, Amazon, Goldwake Press, and now we get to enjoy this wonderful pasta, which at some point we'll go ahead and we'll post everything that's in here so you can remake it yourself and enjoy it on your own.
Cool.
Thanks for joining us. For joining us for the October episode of Cookbook. Obviously, Joshua Butts, awesome guy, awesome poet, made some great pasta, and I think the key to all of that is going to be if you got the right garden, it's going to be delicious. Before we head out, I want to let you know that in November, it looks like our guest is going to be someone from the Columbus Museum of Art. They just finished opening up their new edition, so really excited to talk to someone from there. And to hear what they've got to say about all the things going on. In December, we're actually not going to be in Columbus. We're going to be down in Knoxville for a holiday cookbook with all of the staff, the people. Hopefully as many of them can show up as possible. Before we head out, I wanted to send a big congratulations. Sundress Publications had our first open reading period, and the winners were just announced. So big congratulations to Natalie Giarratano, Shannon Elizabeth Hardwick, and Sarah Marcus. That's awesome. All the books their books will come out in 2017, and really exciting that's going on. In terms of Best of the Net, we're finishing up cataloging all the submissions, and we'll be getting them to the readers and eventually to the judges and so on and so forth as we get towards the end of the year. So thank you for watching, thank you for joining us, and we will see you in November.